Think about all the emails and all the DMs that all these people are receiving all the time, and think about how they sell to you. Hey, Derek, it looks like you're crushing it over there at your agency, but you could do a lot better. Click right here. I'll give you a demo and we're going to double your, triple your agency and da-da-da-da. Like, honest opinion. What do you think when people DM you like that?
I just ignore it. I'm like, they sound like everybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah, no way. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show, where a successful entrepreneur and a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur help you build an 8-figure agency by documenting our successes and our failures. And today, I want to chat through a couple of things, Gary, that are really going to highlight my failures that I think you're going to really appreciate, that are going to be able to provide a lot of value to the audience today. Because again, for the beginning, Gary, the premise of the show is I get to talk about my failures, and you get to talk about your failures, and we just get to build in public. Like, people get to see what we're doing. And I think I personally have dropped the ball on that in the last few episodes. So I really want to get vulnerable and kind of just share with people, where we've been, give an update on where you've been, and kind of go from there. How does that sound?
Let's do it. You said there was something specific you wanted to talk about, though, that I was interested
Absolutely.
in. What was that?
Absolutely. I think there is. And it's going to be the concept of patience and doing what needs to be required versus doing what, you think is required, if that makes sense, right? And this is something that you've talked about in the show multiple times. But the concept of just doing more. So I'll just share this little realization that I had for anybody who's been a long-term watcher or listener of the show. And you know this, Gary. I've always preached about the concept of 10. And it's just start somewhere and start with 10 messages. And here's what I've learned. While it's a great way to get started, I have been able to grow 2 companies now to that point, to about mid 5 figures a month, between 20 and actually lower end of 5 figures a month, like 20 to 30K in MRR off the back of 10 messages a day, which is, don't get me wrong, that is incredible, because 10 messages a day is absolutely nothing. But here's the lesson of doing what needs to be required, not what you want to do, right? I can't figure out why I can't cross 50K a month in all of my companies. I'm like, why can't I can't get past 40, I can't get past 50, and I can't even get close to 100 or 250 a month. And I start seeing the competitors and all that stuff. And it stares you in the face the entire time, but you try to look for other reasons why it's not happening. And the answer in my case is we're just not doing enough outreach and not getting enough sales meetings. And you know this because we spent all of last episode talking about pricing and all that stuff. You kind of get in your head and you're like, my pricing isn't good. What if there's not enough people that want my offer? What if this? What if that? And then I was sitting there and I was thinking, I was like, wait a minute. I'm having all of these ideas, all of these supposedly major epiphanies when I'm speaking with one person a week. Like, what am I doing? Because a YouTube video came up and it said, in my agency, we're going to do 100K this month and we email 1,000 people a day. If you're emailing, and the line, Gary, I'm not kidding you, the line literally said, if you think you're going to get anywhere emailing 10 people a day, you're crazy. Here I am emailing 10 people a day. Like, why isn't this working? Why is this working? It's because these people are sending 1,000 emails a day. And that's the problem. What are your thoughts around this?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you figure out what your churn is and then you say, okay, how do we cover our churn just with sales? What do you need to do to just cover that? That's going to keep you where you're at. That's probably what you're doing, maybe a little bit less than that. And so you're like shrinking and growing, but slowly moving backwards. Then yeah, you either have to reduce your churn to 0 or you have to increase your sales. Those are the only 2 problems to solve. That's it.
Yeah, the biggest problem has always been, and it's been a recurring theme since the beginning of this show, has been like, how do you reach more people? How do you get more leads? So I'd love to ask you if you have any update. How has your IT team developed that automated outreach system? How's it been working?
So actually, I've just been messaging about this. So it's so funny you asked. And we got it off the ground. We got messages going out. But right now, it's going really slow because they can only send 2 a minute. So it only will send 2 emails a minute on all the different softwares that we have, the way everything's patched together. That's the most they'll do. So if I did some quick math on that, that means you're going to send how many emails? Let's see here. So 2 a minute. So 2 times 60 is 120. So 120 times 24 hours a day is 2,880 emails a day. So that's where we're at right now. It literally just started it yesterday. So now it's like, okay, cool. And then that's per campaign. So we can set up 2 or 3 or 4 campaigns and be doing 10,000 emails a day. Now, we don't want to do that many because there's only 120,000 people in the dental industry. So right now we're testing it on, we're not even asking for a demo. We're going to push to either events, like, hey, have you considered this event? Or we're going to a free webinar. And that might be something that helps you out too, Derek, is like increasing your authority. So that's something that we're really working on right now is like, how do we have more authority before we reach these people cold. So how do you do that? Number one, you can do send them to like a podcast, like, hey, thought you might be interested in this podcast that fits into what you're doing. Now they go, oh, these people actually know what they're talking about. Shoot them to a webinar. And then we have like a white paper that we created on the state of dental marketing for 2023. People have been interacting with that like crazy. So now we're pushing people through that content, build up authority, then push them back to a demo once they know us and they've seen our face a couple times.
I love it. Yeah, I think for you, Gary, you're going to print money. I think you're going to, like, that's amazing, because if you launched it yesterday, I reckon within 30 days, you're going to get all the data you need to understand which campaigns are working, which to turn off, which to scale. Let me ask you this question, because this has been I'll just share kind of where I'm at right now. I've come to the realization that to grow where I want to grow, to grow through the ceilings, I have to forget about thinking the market's too small. I have to forget about all of that. And I just have to get to 1,000 emails a day. We're doing nothing. We're over here making all these things, but we're doing nothing. And to do that, I have to go back to what I initially presented a few weeks back, which is automated email sending, right? Which the reason we didn't launch it is because I wasn't familiar with how to do the domains. Now I am. I found tutorials and I'm just going to go buy a bunch of domains, create a website, route it back to the website. Now I understand all that. Honestly, and for anybody watching, the biggest thing that was confusing for me is if you have separate domain names, and once I do this, I'll do a full tutorial. But when you have separate domain names, how do you make sure that if the client looks up that weird domain name you bought, that it routes to your main website? There's a way to route it so that any domain name points to your main one. Yeah. I honestly had no idea. That was like, oh, crazy.
Yeah, we just did like SMC or SMC email or something like that. We bought a domain. It was like SMC email, but then they were like, dashes do worse in emails for whatever reason. They look more spammy or something. I don't know. So we scrapped that one, and then we just did SMC email, and then we're sending it from me, but it's not really me, right? It's Gary at SMC email. So that way, if it gets spammed up or whatever, then it doesn't shut down our whole, blacklist our whole domain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. I love it. And that's what took me a long time to figure out. But really just getting to the 1,000. But the biggest bottleneck in doing that, Gary, isn't even setting up the campaigns, because it's kind of a one-time thing. Once you build your templates, once you set up your campaign, it's having enough prospects to actually email consistently, because you need 1,000 new prospects a day. What's been your solution to that, and have you experienced that bottleneck?
No, there's 120,000 dentists in the United States. So the way I look at the market, so most people would say that's a really small market, right? Like 120,000 people, because some of those work for other people. A big percentage of them actually, probably I don't know, I'm guessing, but 20-30% of those work for somebody else, maybe more. So I mean, you lose. They don't even have any marketing money to spend, and then from there, some of them have big organizations that the organization manages all their marketing. So we're probably left with literally maybe 50,000 people that are potential clients. And then from there, how many of them actually have the money to afford marketing? Smaller percentage. So it's not a huge market. It's very small. But for me, it's just, how do right now, I don't even have a percentage point of it, right? I don't even have 1 point of the market. So if I get to 1 point of the market, Derek, just 1 point, that gets us to like a $20 million to $30 million a year agency in recurring revenue, which is, I'm good with that, right? So that's kind of what we're aiming for and how we're thinking through it. It's a totally different way to think through the problem than the way that people on the internet kind of explain it.
Oh, are you kidding me? That is drastically different and extremely reassuring to hear. Like that is incredible, because I'm over here sitting here thinking that my market's too small. No one can afford what I want to do. I can't build a $30 billion company. And then here you are saying my market's 120,000 people. Of the 120,000 people, there's maybe 40 to 50,000 of them that really want to do it. And I don't even own a percentage point. And already at the size you are. I think a lot of people miss that point. I will say I fall into the trap of looking at competitors. I mean, we were doing it just before this call. We were talking through. I was like, oh, Gary, saw this get better on Twitter. But you made a point that doesn't even cross my mind yet. It just shows the difference of experience of like, yeah, but what's their churn like? And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a good point. I have no idea. Yeah. Like all I see is the pretty sexy website. Really high.
The site you were showing me, like it seems really promising, but I bet you the churn's crazy, or they have long contracts. One of the two.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I look at that, I'm like, interesting. It's a struggle with an abundance mindset. But so around prospecting, though, what have you done to get those leads? Is it just past lists that you've already had that you're plugging into it, past leads that haven't closed?
No, I mean LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has everybody's information. Now I think only like 2% of dentists or something ridiculous like that actually actively use LinkedIn. So we're not using LinkedIn as a marketing tool. We're using it as a prospect tool to get the list of all the dentists. Then we're putting it through, is it Limlist? I think it is.
Yep.
Yeah, you put it through Limlist. So now I have all the names of the dentist. Now I match emails and cell phones and DMs on that. Then we start sending out the emails after that. The other thing is you got to warm up the list. So you got to warm up the list first to you send it to like you or like people inside your company and start opening the emails so it shows that the new URL that you bought is, and there's a whole class on that inside of Limlist on how to do that. But then the next thing is you want to warm it up. Just going from 0 to demo is like the best way I've heard it described is like going out on the street and being like, hey, you seem really cute. We should date. And it's like, it's a little strong, right? So instead of being like, hey, you look really cute, we should date, it's more like, hey, have you ever, you ask for directions. Hey, do you know how to get to here? And that's what we're doing is we're like, hey, do you know how to get from point A to point B? Oh, you don't? That's okay. Here we go. We have a report on that for you. And then we get them to download the report. Then we push them into a webinar. Then we push them to ask for a demo because now, or maybe we sprinkle in a podcast in there, right? Like, hey, you should watch this podcast. It'd be really helpful for you. And then they see that it has a lot of views on it. So it's like walking them through to warm them up to get to know you. I think that's a whole different ballgame.
How much of a part do you think that the pricing of your offers actually correlates to the way that you're doing your outreach? In other words, I know that might be an obvious question, but on my end of the table, I'm like, I don't know if we have the time to do so much warming up versus just reaching out to masses and seeing what sticks. But our pricing is drastically different. What's your take on that? Is it out of necessity or out of choice that you're doing it?
It's out of success. I want to be successful. So to be successful, what I've learned is that you got to give before you get. And so to get things from people, you have to provide value. And so just simply like the way I think about it is I think about all the emails and all the DMs that all these people are receiving all the time and think about how they sell to you, right? Think about the DMs, how they sell to you. How do they sell to you? Hey, Derek, it looks like you're crushing it over there at your agency, but you could do a lot better. Here, sign up, just click right here. I'll give you a demo and we're going to double your, triple your agency and right? Like that's how people reach out. And what do you think in your, like, honest opinion? What do you think when people DM you like that?
I just ignore it. I'm like, they sound like everybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah, no
so
way.
now if I reached out, Derek, and I said, hey, Derek, it looks like you're crushing it at your agency. I have this free white paper that will tell you all about the creator economy and video editing, and it will give you all the specs on how many potential clients are out there, how many agencies are out there doing the kind of work that you're doing, and it'll give you the whole report around that. And guess what? It's all free. Would you download that?
Oh, this is okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then now I have you in my system now. So now I'm like, this is not just some cold email that I scraped off of LinkedIn or off of Limlist, right? Now you are a warm lead and you know me, and now you know I have some authority. Then the next email you're going to get from me is, hey, Derek, I saw that you downloaded that report. Hopefully it was very helpful to you. I have another report, or I have another webinar that I put together that tells you why people fail in marketing their agencies. And it's free. You can come to it. It's about 30 minutes long, no strings attached. Would you click on that?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Then now when I go, hey, Derek, here's why your agency is not working the way that you want. Your X is this, your Y is this. And you're like, yeah. And then now I'm going to say, Derek, you should schedule a demo with us. We might be able to fix all those problems for you.
So if you're listening to this, got to take notes, because right now, Gary, I think I would love to get an understanding. Do you have two separate email softwares? What I mean is this: when you have a campaign and you send it to 1,000 people and 100 people reply claiming that white paper, how do you segment those leads to then send them a follow-up email that says, hey, thanks so much for claiming it? Or do you simply set up a link to claim it where they give you their email again, and then that triggers an email flow?
So we're pulling all this, I would call them like just random emails, and we're doing all that through Limlist. And if you haven't watched that last episode on this, go back and watch it, because Derek actually walks through how to build it. And we literally followed that template. Now, what we do is those are all kind of like garbage leads, and I don't want those in our CRM, which we use HubSpot. So I don't want just to load all these garbage contacts, because it's going to be too hard to navigate in there. But once somebody downloads the white paper, for the state of the dental marketing industry, they are now in that list. And so now they're in HubSpot. And now we're like, okay, this is an interested person. They're a dentist or they work in the dental industry and they downloaded this white paper about dental marketing. Now we're going to follow up with an email sequence to nurture them into a demo.
So 2 questions for you on that one. The first email that you send them, you're not including any links, right? You're just saying, hey, mind if we send through this white paper? Then they reply, then you send the link. Is that correct?
No, it's just a link that they go in and fill out put their email again.
But in the initial cold email, are you sending that right away? You're actually including that link?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, interesting. I've been seeing a lot of things that have been saying not to do that.
I'm not asking for a demo. That's the difference. Do you want to ask for a demo or do you want to give value first? That's the main takeaway that I think that...
Absolutely. The reason I'm even mentioning that is I'm doing a lot of research on it. A lot of the research has been pointing to not including links in the initial cold email because it helps with avoiding spam. I don't know the details on it. It's just
I'm sure that's true. I'm sure that's true. We're still testing it. So we're still in like day 1, day 2. I just already built the other end of it. So now I'm just, here's the difference is I built the nurture side first and now I'm building the math side second, where you're working on the math side, but you don't have the nurture side yet.
And interestingly enough, that's been our biggest problem, Gary, because on the prospecting side, on our end, right, when we help people strategize content for their personal brand, there might be, for example, if we work with lawyers, right, there might be, I don't know the exact numbers, but 250,000 lawyers in the United States, right? Of those 250,000, only a certain percentage can actually afford it, and only a certain percentage don't work for it. It's the same kind of with dentists, right?
Yeah.
Now, with that in mind, though, the problem we've been experiencing is hiring a team of prospectors to actually find that perfect candidate for us is really difficult. You just laid it out for me pretty clear. Like, Derek, don't do that. Get all the lawyers, send them all an email, offer them something specific where a subset of people that would be your ideal market would claim and find valuable, and lead with value first and let the segmentation happen automatically on your behalf so make the prospecting broad and open of just lawyers, but let your resources that you give in your cold email do the segmentation for you.
Yeah, because it doesn't cost anything to email everybody.
Exactly, which is a really good point. And I didn't think of it because what I've been doing, and I might have to test this as well to kind of split test it, but we've been trying to hire prospectors to go after a very specific person, like literally like, do they make content on social media? Do they not? And see how many people they can find doing that. We're going to test that first because it might be a little bit more effective. But let me ask you this. What did you use to set up your nurture sequence? Any software recommendations or tips around that?
HubSpot. So what you do in HubSpot.
You did in HubSpot.
Yeah. Okay. So HubSpot has a ton of resources to teach you how to do this, but I'm just going to make it easy for you. Basically, you send out all the content you have. We've been creating educational content forever, but we just never really like tracked it. We would just post it on social media and get deals from it. Now we're tracking it. So HubSpot lets you see how many people clicked on it, how many people submitted, how many people then eventually turned into revenue from it. So we can see all that. So now what we're doing is we're resending out all of our educational pieces, and we're seeing what people interact with. So instead of us guessing what should be in the lead nurturing sequence, we're just adding whatever content performs well. So that's basically what HubSpot teaches people is like, send out all your content, get it out to people, see what people interact with, and then take the best content and put that into a lead nurturing sequence because it's actually solving people's problems. And again, it's providing value before asking.
Got it. So in other words, you're using HubSpot for your lead nurturing sequence. In HubSpot, you're building out an email sequence with templated emails that will template the prospect's name, right?
And landing pages and social posts. It all ties together. It gives you all the stats on all of that. Yeah, in HubSpot.
Really? Interesting. Okay, interesting. I have to look into that. So then, just to be really clear and make sure that I understand, the audience understands, email nurture sequence is built in HubSpot. You can build a set of sequences. You can title the sequence lead nurture, and it'll say, okay, when someone claims this resource by using this link, send them this initial email. Hey, welcome to the SMC newsletter. In here, we're going to share XYZ. 2 days later, they get a case study. Here's how we helped dental practice ABC add $2 million in top line revenue. And they just get that drip fed to them 2 to 3 times a week, even 1 time a week. And then it's like, hey, want to get this webinar? And you kind of do that. So it is a long-term play, but you build up that newsletter. And the way you do that is you get the really broad dentist leads, right? You put those into Lemlist. You segment those by offering a very specific resource to them, just saying, hey, curious, we work with dentists and this is what we do. Created this free white paper. If you want it, let us know. We'll send through the link, or you just include the link right there. Of the people that claim the link, you recollect their email information. That email funnel will then automatically put their information into a HubSpot, which will then automatically trigger the lead flow, right? And what you're saying is to flip what I've been doing on my head. Build the nurturing first in a software. It doesn't have to be HubSpot, but build the nurture first. then get the broad leads, then build out the automated emails, keep the
You can do
prospects
both.
coming in.
Yeah, do both at the same time. Like build them both. I'm really excited about this broad reach one, but the lead nurturing is really good because anybody who says no or anybody who dies in the process, we're submitting them into the same lead nurturing process to try to get them back.
Yeah. And they just
It
keep
might be
sitting there and
6
they see
months.
the stuff. Yeah.
They're going to remember us. Like they're going to see us. They're going to remember us because they see
And
us.
that's huge.
And then the other thing we have on top of that, Derek, is we have events and podcasts too. So they're guaranteed they're going to see us. Like they're not going to forget us. And we're either going to get them into our event, we're going to get them to watch our podcast, or we're going to get them to download our newsletter. Like one way or the other, they're gonna know about us.
No, this works and it's going to win and it's going to convert a lot of people. I guess, let me put it to you this way, on my end, and kind of where I hesitate is, and I don't hesitate, this is just a lack of experience. Maybe you can shed some light on this, because I think a lot of other people might be experiencing the same thing. In my current industry, I have to do a lot of educating possibly, right? Because so what we do is we help founders build their personal brands, and we're trying to find a subset of people that we can charge a decent amount of money for and actually give them value. A lot of people still don't like we live in a very microcosm of society at the moment, right? There aren't a lot of Garys out there, right? People that understand the value of content creation, that invest into it, that are doing what you're doing, right? There's a reason why you win and others don't. But with that in mind, as a company, we have to do a lot of educating. The lawyer that's never heard of content, but has seen a couple famous people online who thought, I kind of want to do it. We have to reach them at the right time and educate them that they're capable of doing it. What's your thoughts around that? And how do you see this playing a role?
Well, let me flip it around on you. How many business owners know that they need to be on social media?
I think almost every single business owner knows they need to be on social media for sure. But
Bingo.
I'll let you go ahead and continue with that.
So every business knows that they need to be on social media. Now, are they all on social media? No, right?
No.
And it's the same with dental marketing. Almost every business knows that they need to learn how to do dental marketing. And why? Or every dentist, I should say. Why? Because they either need more new patients to grow, or they know right now they might not need more new patients, but if something happens with the economy or something happens, they're going to need more new patients, or they're marketing now and it's not working. So I would say you're in the same boat. Now, dentists are technicians, which means they're very detailed, very organized. And what that means is they're going to need to have trust built first, because they're going to dive into the weeds with you, or otherwise it's not going to be a great relationship. So I would say that lawyers are going to be very similar to that. They all know they need to be on social media. Now it's your job to figure out, okay, what's the sequence that we walk them through to help them learn about this? Maybe you teach a course on here's how to record your own videos.
Yep.
Maybe you do a course on here's how to build out your voice, because you don't start with a voice, you have to build a voice, right?
Yep.
Here's how to automate your posting without losing view count. Here's how to accept, like you just think of like 10 things and you build it all out, and then you test it. You send it out and you see how it does. And then you start seeing which pieces hit, which ones don't. And the next thing you know, these people are like, man, I've tried all this stuff and I still can't do it. I need help. And that's when they come to you.
Yep. This is exactly why I mentioned the word patience in the beginning, because Gary, everything you just mentioned, I actually have written in a notes file that my co-founder and I have been going through, and we've been trying to figure out a who, not how, as to how we can afford to make this happen, because we can't physically do it ourselves. We're running out of time to build all that out, right? But I guess at some point we just have to make the time, right? If that means staying up later, we have to make the resources, just segment it out, create a timeline for it. I love it. And, that's why I mentioned patience, because Gary, I think a lot of people listening to this, and the reason I'm saying this because I make this mistake all the time, is I want that yesterday. So I get here bogged down by the amount of work that's ahead of me. And I'm like, I know I need to do this and this would work. Because Gary, if I implement this in the next 30 days, over the next 12 months, it is unreasonable to think that we won't nurture people and even possibly convert someone who didn't want to make content before into somebody willing to pay $7,000 a month for content. Because when we drip feed case studies and we drip feed white papers and we drip feed lead magnets and we drip feed a webinar and we drip feed a free strategy session and we give them a 30-day free trial, whatever it is that we do, by month 9 of seeing our content and how all of their competitors are winning massively because we're helping them, it's unreasonable to think that they won't win.
Yeah. I've had people like say, well, I don't know how to build all that. Like, I don't know how to like create that content. And it's like, hey, if you don't know the industry well enough, then you got more work to do before you can really go out there and create a webinar, right? Like if you said right now, if you hit record right now and said, okay, Gary, we got 1,000 dentists here right now, do a webinar, I could do it cold turkey. No notes, no anything, because it's all I do. You know what I mean? And so you got to create those. I have pillars. I have like, okay, here's where I start. Here's where I work through. Here's how I bring it to a conclusion. And I've done it so many times that it's just second nature now. And that's where you want to get to, is like, cool, I can create and talk about these subjects, and it's going to lead to people wanting to work with us.
Yeah, this was a tremendously valuable episode. I think the key pillars in it, and I'll just do a quick recap, and Gary, chime in if you'd like. Number one, just overall patience. Like, you might know you need to build some crazy stuff, but you have to be patient with it. You can't have, I like to call it, you can't build Rome in a day. So like, if you feel, Gary, to your point, that you can't get everything out there, where if you were in front of 1,000 people right now for a webinar and you don't know what to talk about, you have more work to do. And it just goes back to patience. And the second thing there, Gary, is the concept of doing more, doing what's required, not what you think is required, doing what's actually required. And in this case, to really grow past the ceiling that I'm at, which is the 20 to 30K a month mark, and get to the 50 plus beyond, because we haven't been able to break 50. It's doing more of the thing that got us to 30 right now. It's more leads, more prospecting, more outreach. And the way to do that is to nurture people, to build those funnels, to create those lead magnets. The value in this as well, just real quick, in these lead magnets, is that we can reuse these multiple times as well, which is tremendously valuable.
Yeah.
They're evergreen. Extremely evergreen. They're going to take a lot of time to make up front, but they're super evergreen. Gary, anything else that you want to add?
Just do it, bro. I'm super excited. Yeah. And I'll keep you guys posted, because I'm going to get this off the ground and find holes and say, okay, let me get more granular on why this worked or didn't work.
We should definitely do an update. I'm literally going to be building this like over the next 30 to 90 days as well. So I'm actively doing this as well. I'm actually testing a different software as well, Instantly AI instead of Lemlist. It's a similar software. They all do the same thing, but I've been seeing it a lot. I'm going to try that one as well. Gary, this was tremendously valuable. We should definitely do an update episode. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this episode, consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check us out on video. We are a video first show. If you like what you're hearing, check us out on TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. And with that said, guys, thanks so much for watching and listening to this episode of the 8 Figure Agency Show. Till next time. Peace.